It's 7:07. I'm Daedalus Howell. We're speaking with Julia Donoho. She's running for City Council of the town of Windsor. I have learned the hard way that it is a town, not a village, nor a city, but a town.
It is a town.
This is your second attempt.
Yes, sir.
First was in 2006?
2006, 10 years ago.
What happened then?
When I ran back then, I was new to town. I had just moved into my house, and my daughter was only in kindergarten. And I was in law school, and I was working full time, so I was kind of juggling a lot. So I put in about 50% effort to get elected, and I got about 50% of the votes I needed to win. So I was very, very happy with my results, given all that I was handling at the time.
What compelled you to run, given what was happening in your life?
Running for town council is actually a great way to get to know your community and to find out what resources there are. The other way of getting to know the community is Leadership Santa Rosa, which I did. I was class 25. So that, together with my service working in county government and my having run for town council, gave me a really great perspective of our community.
And here we are a decade hence, and you're in it again.
Yes, I am.
In it to win it.
I am, sure.
What's the difference between then and now?
Well, since then, I've done a decade of service in county government. I've finished law school and passed the bar.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I've gone back on my own, working, so I have a small office. I do architecture and I do law.
So you're one of those people who has one of these minds where you can do anything, right? Architecture, law. I know you're a surgeon also.
No.
And you cured cancer. No. Why dual careers like that? I mean, it's.
I'm not doing dual careers. I'm doing a career of architecture, and sometimes I'm involving the law, and sometimes I'm doing legal things that are tangential to architecture. So I'm in a professional association that actually has. There's about 100 of us across the country that are architect attorneys. So I'm using my legal advocacy skills to advocate for things. Like I told you, I got Julia Morgan the first gold medal in architecture. I did that with my advocacy skills that I got as a lawyer more than my persuasive skills. It was a political activity, getting people from all across the country to understand who she was, what kind of architect she was, and then to vote for her.
Yeah, I lived in Berkeley, so she's everywhere there.
Yeah, she's everywhere there, but if you lived in Arkansas, you would say, right. Why would I vote for Julia Morgan? Never heard of her, right? So I had to educate a lot of people, and I had to do a political process to make it happen.
And you're bringing this sensibility to the town of Windsor, like.
Right.
Any particular thing you're advocating for right now?
Healthy, safe, resilient community. We have one of the safest communities because of the planning, the good planning that we have done that's created walkability and livability. I'm an advocate for managed growth. I like all housing types in our town because I think it creates a good, diverse community. I'm really interested in having a movie theater on the town green.
Is there no movie theater?
There is no movie theater.
Wow.
There was an attempt to put a movie theater there back in the earlier days of the community, but the sewer fees were too high, so they placed the movie theater at the airport.
Is that because like all the movies are shit?
No. Just the sewer fees were what they were, and there wasn't a good negotiation. So for about a $20,000 differential, we lost a movie theater and everyone has to go to the airport to watch movies.
Right.
So we need to get that function back at the town green. And because that'll drive the 6 to 9 business every night, not just during the summer. We want it year round. We want to have a very active town green.
Now, I've seen it happen in Petaluma. They created what's called the theater district, right? For better or worse. Exactly. But having theater there certainly has kept that part of the town alive and vital, and businesses have come in because of that.
Yeah.
Okay, but when it comes to live theater, right? It seems like there's a potential for a performing arts center or something.
Absolutely. I think we have a great potential for a performing arts center that can also be a movie theater. Maybe we can do something that's combined uses so that we have activity all the time. My mother lives in Palm Desert. They have a beautiful performing arts center, but it's always sitting there. I drive by and it's like empty.
Right.
I don't want that in our town green. I want something that's very active and engaged on a regular basis.
A lot of that has to do, the reason they're empty half the time is because it's so expensive to get a production in there.
Right.
How do you mitigate that kind of thing? Do you support the arts?
But you make the building more of a mixed-use type building that can accommodate multiple uses, and then there's activity more often.
Yeah. As an architect, downtown Windsor, and I've talked to other candidates about this, to me looks like somebody ordered it online and then installed it, right? I'm not sure who the developer was or if the architect was visually impaired or something, but why does it look the way it does, and do you like it?
Orrin Thiessen designed his own buildings. He didn't really want to work with an architect, and he chose the colors, he chose the materials, he used the same windows because it was cheaper.
Right. How do you feel about that, though, as an architect?
So at the time I said, well, why don't you just hire an architect to at least do color studies? You know, in Berlin, they did a whole new area of town when they took down the wall. And it was like, should we just have one architect do it? No. We need to have different architects or it's going to look very funny. We need to have different people involved because how they approach a design problem will create what gives you that urban fabric. So
which is really a tapestry for the eyes.
We don't want the sameness. We want more diversity. But the reason why it came about is because Orrin developed all that, and thank God he did. You know, I mean, what he did was to help us create a container for all the activities that we've been doing the last 10, 15, 20 years. But we need to finish out the other couple of sides with a little bit more diversity in the architecture. We have some great opportunities here to really do something stellar.
Yeah, I understand there's sort of a growing beer district of a sort. Does that sound correct?
Yeah, there's well, I think our whole community needs to move more towards wine tasting and beer tasting in the urban cores rather than out in the landscape, but just because of driving and intoxication.
But what happens though? I mean,
but then we create these boutique areas. I think we're moving in that direction.
That'd be great. But do you want to tip into becoming Healdsburg, or do you want to?
No, I think we want to maintain a really relaxed, family-friendly environment. I think that's really important, but we want to accommodate some tourism. We don't want to be like Healdsburg quite. But we already have such strong programs in place. I'm really confident that we can accommodate more people and more activities and still maintain that. So that would be my goal, is to maintain that interest that we have going on, but also accommodate more, because that brings money into our community.
Yeah. How's Windsor doing with money? Does it have enough to do what it needs to do?
Windsor's done really well with a balanced budget, and I would be a huge advocate for always balancing the budget and I'm more fiscally conservative. I'm more of a moderate politically. I can see both sides of the table. My lawyer skills really help with that because I can see the left, I can see the right. My mother had her 85th birthday, and I bought her a Trump hat, and we took a picture, and I wore my Hillary hat, and so we cancel each other out. But I know how to talk to people on both sides. Yeah. And so, so I think that's a skill I have. My dad, who lived with me here in Windsor for 7 years and helped with raising my daughter, he's far left. My mother's far right. I'm kind of in the middle because I can talk to both of them. So I think that's a skill that I have.
That's great. So it's election night, right? You have to give all the speeches and all that. What's the key takeaway that you want voters to have before they go into the booth? And it doesn't have to be a soundbite. It can actually be a whole thought.
Well, I think the reason why I would really appreciate the voters to vote for me is because I think I bring a level of qualifications and competence to the position. I have a larger perspective because I am an architect and an attorney, and I've served on these national boards for the American Institute of Architects, for the Jefferson Society, and for the Streamline Institute. I understand how government works, and I think I can do a really great job, and I'm really good at listening to the constituents and really understanding the full spectrum of the problem.
We're talking with Julia Donoho on 7 to 7. We'll be right back. It's 7:07. I'm Daedalus Howell. We're with Julia Donoho. She's running for town council in Windsor. Things have changed in Windsor. Things have changed in your life. Let's start from the beginning and get to, not the end, but where we are now. The end is very, very far away. The end of your life is so distant we can't even...
The beginning of my life, not my time.
No, I'm at the end of it, but yeah, the beginning might also be. I have no idea how old you are. Yeah, long time ago, once upon a time. Where were you? Where did you start?
I began life in Houston, Texas. And I grew up there and had a wonderful childhood. lived in a big neighborhood called Tanglewood, and we could ride our bikes everywhere, and we had floods.
Oh, yeah?
And we swam in the streets every September
That
because
is
the
awesome.
water could get up to about 3 feet, and we could actually swim in the streets.
See, Windsor used to have a waterworks, so you could totally bring that back.
Yeah.
Swim the streets of Windsor, that'd be brilliant.
Well, I think it was bad infrastructure planning that we had water that high. But the houses were set up high enough so that they weren't affected, but the streets were not passable. So we always had flood days. We didn't have snow days because it never snowed in Houston. Once, I think when I was 10,
Yeah.
we had a snow day.
Were you an only child, siblings, or?
No, I have 2 brothers.
Yeah.
One lives in Austin, Texas, and the other lives here in California. He's a professor at Stanford.
What did your parents do?
My father's a physics professor at Rice University. My mother's a school teacher.
Okay, yeah.
So both education.
And then, where did you go to school?
I went to school at the local elementary
No, I mean the
school.
college.
College.
Sorry,
I
yeah.
went to Princeton University.
Right on, yeah.
Yeah. I went there twice. It was so beautiful to be there, and I got involved. I started as an engineer, and I moved into architecture. And then they had such a great program in architecture, I went back there for my master's.
That's great.
Yeah.
But then all the way from the East Coast to the West, what brings you to California?
I came out to California because my mother's from California. My parents met here in California. My dad was at Caltech, and my mother lived in Pasadena. She went to Occidental. And they met at the Methodist Church on Colorado Boulevard. And it's a beautiful church. They got married there. And so our family has always had a lot of activity in California and Texas.
Was it a job, or what? I mean, what drew you here? I mean,
I moved away from California back in 1992, and I went to Colorado, and I had my own firm there, and I had a very thriving practice, but I had a daughter, and I wanted to be back in California where we had some family.
yeah.
So I moved back here, and when I did, I very intentionally moved to Sonoma County because I had been working for an architect over in Sonoma, Ned Forrest. He's a great architect, and he was a really, really sweet guy, Boy Scout troop leader type kind of guy, and he just really instilled the belief that working and living in the community are important. He didn't want people to commute to his office. I mean,
Right.
he might take someone out of the Bay Area, but he wanted them to live and work in the community. So he gave me a great model for how to be an architect in a community, is to really get involved.
Have you done a lot of work in Windsor? Like, are there buildings that you know that you designed?
Not in Windsor.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
Where are they?
Most of my work here in the county of Sonoma, I did one building for Ned. It's sort of like right on the border with Sonoma and Napa County. It's the De Rosa Art Preserve.
Oh, yeah, it's
I
huge.
worked
It's
on
beautiful.
That. Have
Yeah,
you been there?
of course
So
I
I
have,
did
yeah.
the building that's between the winery and the metal building. So
Yes.
it's like a tunnel.
It's a great
and there's
building.
a car hanging from a tree in front of it, so you know you're
the
there.
Dave Best car. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know
And
it,
you
yeah.
go in a tunnel, and there's a chapel, and it has the monk stair up, and it has also all the ADA stuff to fit into the winery without messing with the front of the winery.
Wow. Brilliant. Yeah,
so
I love
it was
it.
ADA.
Drove by there yesterday, in fact.
Yeah.
Right
So
on.
I did that piece. It was like a little jewel.
Why can't we do that with Windsor? If you had your druthers, right, city council, or you get to redesign the city, what would you do?
Right now,
Yeah.
I'd rather do city council,
Yeah, okay.
town council.
Town council, sorry.
Yeah.
So now you're in Windsor, you're working kind of back into your personal timeline. You got the political bug, it sounds like in 2006, the first time, but also that was a means to immerse yourself in the community there. In the 10 years that have transpired since, how do you feel about Windsor and your place in it?
Oh, well, in 2005, I moved into a new house. And so we invested a lot of money, and then it very quickly disappeared. So the street that I was on, very interesting. It had a lot of people who actually couldn't afford to live there or had other things going on. And through the recession, they all kind of left. And there was one guy who was coming out and yelling at people all the time. So I did a lot of praying for having nice neighbors. I did a lot of praying for having nice neighbors. I didn't say any neighbor was a good neighbor or a bad neighbor, but I just wanted to have a nice neighborhood feel and nice neighbors.
I'm going to assume you have a religious faith of some kind.
I was raised Methodist,
Yeah.
and I am Christian, and I am also a Buddhist.
Yeah.
But I believe in the power of prayer.
Sure.
And really, the whole community changed. So I survived the recession in place. We had to reinvest a lot of money in the house to stay. And
were your prayers answered? Did the neighbors show up?
Everyone changed. In fact, one of my neighbors is Mike Wall.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and so it's kind of interesting because in 2006 he had just gotten a condo on the green, and then he met Christine, and now they have 2 little kids.
Yeah, I mean,
but I have a teenager, so I went through that whole time, and I'm really excited to have survived, and we have a great street.
Let me back us up a bit. Mike Wall, to those who don't know, Mr. Wall, tell us his story.
Oh, Mike's also running for town council.
Yes, he's also been on the show. Yeah. Is
He's
that
very nice.
It doesn't seem awkward at all for either of you. Both of you speak well of each other, and
I like Mike. I like Christine. My daughter was in the Nutcracker with Christine a couple of years back at Wells Fargo. So I've invited them over for spaghetti even during the campaign, and. So I think it's important to get along with all the candidates because we don't know who the voters will vote for.
What if you both won, right? And then you'd have this power lock on your street, right? And then
I don't think it would be a power lock. We've never on the town council had anyone on the west side, so I don't think that's a bad thing. And Mike and I see things differently. Like he's not in favor of the Native American development. I'm part Native American, so I'm going to want to be more neighborly. And I've also spent a decade in the Southwest, so I really got to see the Native American dynamics and how it can unfold in bad ways. And so I really want to get ahead of just being good neighbors.
Can we talk about what the development is? It's not a Great Rancheria kind of thing.
No. It's right now. It's housing, right? It may have a winery aspect, which wouldn't you want to do if you were on the East Side Road?
Yeah.
And a hotel component, and that brings tourists through our town. So we can control everything from the freeway to their door, and more importantly, we need to really have good collaboration with the tribe. We need to really mitigate all those problems that can unfold when they do have a casino elsewhere, and that money can flow into our community in a good way or a bad way. So we need to really work on building a healthy, safe, resilient community with our neighbors, and so I want to work with them. So he has a little bit of a different view, but
it's interesting. I think it's great stuff. We're talking with Julia Donoho. Julia Donoho, she's running for town council of Windsor. We'll be right back on 707. We're back. I'm Daedalus Howell. We're talking with Julia Donoho. She's running for town council of Windsor. We left off talking about a housing development being pushed by a Native American, local Native American tribe. And you are a proponent of being a good neighbor of that development. And then there's a possible hotel or resort, I think hotel, that could be adjacent to that property. Healdsburg and Sonoma, for example, do not contribute transitory occupancy tax, right? I think it's 2% of the hotel bills do not go into the wider Sonoma County tourism coffers to promote tourism. But Windsor, I'm not sure where they stand on that. So, because that would be a boon, I think.
Well, the hotel, if it's on the tribal lands, won't be in the town boundaries, so it doesn't really make a difference.
Right, because it'd be a sovereign nation, I guess, unto itself.
Well, they're in the county, first of all. So
it's not in the
if
town
they
bounds,
become
right.
sovereign, then it still doesn't affect us, our town.
What a strange situation. Yeah. Does Windsor have presently a tourism bureau of its own?
I do not believe we have a separate tourism bureau.
Yeah,
we have Parks and Recs. We have, the standard.
Is there space for that in Windsor, or do you rely on the county for that kind of marketing?
I'm not as informed on that issue.
I'm not either.
But
So.
my thinking is that we go with the county.
Yeah. I think there's synergies in going with the county, and I find that there's a sort of isolatory thing that happens.
Especially with a wine growing region.
you have to do it all together. I mean, Sonoma is an outpost.
Regional tourism.
Yeah.
Sonoma and Healdsburg are trying to attract a real concentrated high-end clientele, and I think we want more family-friendly tourists.
Yeah, I'd say so.
And we like having the Vinemen, and we like having those activities come to town, and we want to continue to support that kind of thing because that's really about getting outdoors and being healthy. And
it's almost like Sonoma and Healdsburg are engineering themselves to serve the 1%, and Petaluma, Windsor, say, Santa Rosa certainly wants to reach the 99%, right? But doesn't Windsor sometimes want to do the 59%? You know, or like kind of step it up?
How would you define the 59%? I think that Windsor and Petaluma have a lot in common. You know, Lois Fisher is Fisher Town Design has really worked to do the smart code there and was involved in a lot of the planning. And I just think Lois has some great ideas. She always comes with a smile, and she has such great enthusiasm for the good results of planning, but the timeline is very long. So I think we have a lot in common with Petaluma in that Petaluma's very strong identity among the local residents, and it has a tourism aspect, and it has this walkable community that accommodates both.
Half of it, though, it's two towns. It's an east side and west side. And I guess in many ways that's
Petaluma.
Yeah. Windsor's kind of like that too.
Well, I'm in favor of bridging the east side and the west side with a pedestrian bicycle bridge.
In Windsor.
In Windsor.
See, I'm in favor of flooding the east side of Petaluma and pretending it never happened. That's just me.
I have a doctor on the east side of Petaluma, and I've noticed that dichotomy. But the east side doesn't have that walkable, livable. So that's just services serving residents.
Right.
And the downtown actually serves residents as well as brings in people who are interested in coming to Petaluma.
So with Windsor, 10 years hence, right, you're on council and you and your colleagues are able to shape a vision. What is it in your mind? What does it look like 10 years from now?
10 years from now, I'd like to see the town green finished out, and I'd like to see some different architecture there, some different buildings, and I'd also like to see a connection to the east side and to be able to leverage the parking over there and to create a pathway for students to go to middle school walking or rolling, for seniors to come to the town green without having to drive, and us not having to build too many parking structures, but we may need one or two to accommodate the people without having them so far from the town green and without impacting the local residents. It
seems a lot of your vision has to do with having a pedestrian-friendly town, like making it completely walkable. You know, and with that come the dividends of health, just generally better experience. To make a town walkable, it's got to be nice to walk within. I'll drive through town sometimes, and it's just like, you know, these walls that are blocking off the freeway sound and that kind of thing, and you just don't want to be there.
Right. So I was a big proponent for SMART. I actively campaigned for the bond measure and with the local architects. And I also worked with my local architects to do a visioning study for the Northwest Santa Rosa station. And we successfully got the train station moved from back in this hidden spot out to Guerneville Road, so it'll be more accessible to the whole community. But my thesis when I was at Princeton was the Iron Horse as a vehicle of urban transformation. So my whole career has been about how can you develop a community to strengthen the transportation options so that you can be more walkable, livable. And I bought my house so that I can walk to the train station. I'm less than half a mile from that. So I'm within the walking circle where it's a feasible thing and at least absolutely bicycleable. I have done my bike to the bus stop and gone to work. I've done that when I wasn't taking my daughter to school at the same time. But I think the more we emphasize the walkability and the livability, the more we can get kids to move around town safely. I went on this wonderful trip last year to Japan. And even in the rain, little kids were walking to school by themselves with their brother, sister. They were so well behaved. They obeyed every traffic law, and they were very safe. And it was just a culture of being safe, and I'd like to create that more in our community.
You know, I spoke to somebody from SMART recently, and they pointed out, hey, we have a situation where we've had at least 2 generations that don't know what a train is, you know, or at least how to conduct oneself in the concert with a train going through your city, right? There's obvious safety concerns. There's the vehicle problems, pedestrian problems. Anything can happen, right? Inevitably, sadly, probably will happen. Something will happen, right? What's Windsor doing, and what are you guys going to do with Windsor to make sure that everyone understands, like, you don't hang on the tracks, you don't jump in front of the
I think
train?
that's a collaboration with the schools. We need to collaborate with the schools in discussing that, and I think that's already probably in progress. But as the train starts operating, I think we're going to have that conversation annually. So that's a safety awareness is really an important part of the situation, and it's something that people learn.
Yeah.
My daughter, because she was raised in a car seat, she always buckles up.
Right.
So it's just a way of being that we just have to make sure that people learn and that they respect.
Excellent. We're talking with Julia Donoho. She's running for Town Council of Windsor. Any parting words before we wrap up the segment?
I think we have a great opportunity for the next 10 or 15 years to really change the future of Windsor and make it even more of a gem in the larger context of our county and our state. We're at the top in safety, and I think planning has gotten us there, and I think we need to keep doing that.
Keep planning. You've been watching 707. Thanks for coming. Come back
Thank
after you win.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I would love to.
Yeah.